Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler, and I am the host and the founder of the Order a Man movement and podcast. I've got something near and dear to my heart that I wanted to talk with you about today, and that is building my canoe. I know some of you guys are probably already rolling your eyes. You don't want to hear about my canoe anymore, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this practical advice, information, tips for you to implement in your own life. So whether or not you want to build a canoe of your own, you can implement some of the lessons that I've learned over the past 6 months as my son and I have been building this thing. Before I get into that, just want to make a quick mention of our legacy event. Last week, I told you the wrong dates. I told you to go look on the website, and I'm glad I did because I gave you the completely wrong dates. It is September 23rd through the 26th of this year, 2021. This is our father-son event. So if you've got a boy, or a son or a nephew or a little brother between the ages of 8 to 15, and you want to get them to a place where other men are going to learn how to be men, to forge deeper and tighter bonds between themselves and their boys, and to be challenged physically, mentally, emotionally, all designed to help you usher your young man into manhood, then I would encourage you to, at a minimum, go check out the video from past events because you're going to be blown away with what we're doing. And we've got 4 additional spots left. That's it. 4 spots, September 23rd through the 26th, 2021, orderaman.com/legacy, orderaman.com/legacy. And while you're out here, because it's on my property in Maine, you'll get to see the canoe that my son and I are building. And the one that I'm referencing today in this podcast, which is what, again, I wanted to talk with you about. So we had this idea. A lot of people have asked me, why build a canoe? We had this idea. I should say I had this idea last year. I bought one of those Lifetime or Lifestyle big plastic kayak / canoe things. And we took it out to the lake quite a bit last year and really enjoyed it. And as I was kayaking across the lake one day, I thought, wouldn't this be better if it was in a canoe that my son and I made? So I spent months trying to figure out, is this really something I want to do, and doing a little research on where to get it, which I'll give you some insight here in a minute. And telling my wife that I was going to do this, and her rolling her eyes because she knows how I get with projects, and just trying to figure out if this is something I wanted to do in the midst of everything else that I have going on. And I finally decided to pull the trigger. I said, okay, I'm doing this. I've never built one before. I've wanted to for a while. This would be cool in the lake this spring and this summer. My son and I can do this together. It'll be a great project. We're doing it. So did a lot of research, and we ended up landing on a company called Bear Mountain Boats. And that's where we got the plans from, and that's where we got the wood from. Guys have asked me if it's a kit. That's probably not the right term, because I think when you say kit, some people might assume that it comes in all the right sizes and exactly everything you need with all the tools and everything else. And it wasn't like that. We got a lot of what we needed, including the wood and the epoxy and the molds and some of these other things, but we had to build the strong back, which is the bench the canoe sits on. We had to do a lot of research on our own. Of course, we have to cut everything to size, and we have to bend the stems and put it all together. And it's a lot of work besides just what I think a kit would be that might be setting you up for failure. But regardless, that's where we got the plans. That's where we got the materials. And it's been a pretty good experience for the most part. And thought I'd give you that information. So if you're looking for a canoe to build on your own outside of what I'm going to talk with you about today, then Bear Mountain Boats is a great resource. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever, other than that's where I got our canoe and our plans and our materials. And it's been good. All right. So outside of just building a canoe, I wanted to share these lessons with you because they apply not just towards building a boat, but to every facet of life. And we found that my son and I have found that we want to continue to build boats. In fact, we already bought a second canoe. This was a canoe built in the mid-90s with a father and his son. It's a big canoe. It holds up to 2,000 pounds. It's a 20-footer EM white model. We're going to take that either on the Allagash or some of the lakes here in Maine this year with my family and do some extended campouts with that thing. So we've got to do a little refurbishing on that before that's water ready. But we've really enjoyed it. But there's so many applicable lessons outside of just building a canoe. And that's really what I wanted to share with you today. So without further ado, let me get into the lessons I shared. And then you could decide if you want to build a canoe for yourself or do something else But regardless, these lessons should serve you well. All right. Number one, guys, you don't need to know how to do everything to get started. One of the most popular questions I get is whether it's building a canoe or starting a podcast or launching a movement or growing a business or starting in your physical fitness journey is guys will say, where do I get started? I don't know how to do it. How do I get started? You start with the first step. And guys, that isn't a cop-out. So when it comes to building a canoe, what was the first step? I had to do some research, right? I had to figure out, okay, well, this company's got this and that company's got this and they've got these reviews and they've got this review. What books are they using? What materials do I need? How do we buy this? How much is it going to cost? So we did the research and we landed on, like I said, Bear Mountain Boats. And I called the gal up and I said, here's what we're looking to do. What would you suggest? So look to the people who have already done this because they're going to give you insight and input. And she gave us some recommendations and we actually ended up pulling the trigger. But the point is here, I didn't know how to build a canoe. We're about 80%, I would say, done at this point. We're going to be glassing the inside hull this week. In fact, actually, after I'm done recording this podcast, I'm going to be starting on that. And then we're going to put the gunnels on and the seats and the thwarts and the deck and all that. And we should be wrapped up pretty close to at that point. But this has been a long process. Like I said, we started January 1st. I built the strong back, which is the bench the entire canoe is made on. And I didn't know how to do it all. All right. I didn't get overwhelmed with all of the details and all the things that needed to be done and what it's going to look like and how it's going to work and what point 7 was before I even got to point 1. All I did was look at the book and I said, okay, here I am on step 1, step A, B, C, D, E, F. And as I was about halfway through the steps in building the boat itself, I started to look at what step number 2 was, part number 2. So that I could get the right materials and tools and wrap my head around what needed to be done and do the research. But the point is that we're learning as we're building. I mean, so many of you are looking for everything to be exactly right and everything to be lined out and to know all the information about everything. Look, you don't need to know it all. Okay. You just need to know what the next step is and you need to know in what direction you're heading. And then you can build from there. And that's exactly what we've done. And it's worked out fairly well. We'll find out for sure if it worked out when we put it on the water, but I feel confident that the thing will float, even though people like to ask if I'm building a canoe that will float. Yes. What is the point of building a boat if it doesn't float? Okay. You don't need to know it all. Get started. Please get started. Ryan, I don't know where to start. You know where to start. Just start. Take the first step. Then the next step, then the next step, and so on. And before you know it, you look back and think, man, I had no idea how to do this, but I'm more equipped now. I have more information. I'm better off, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Number 2, slow and methodical. Guys, it's very easy for us as men to want all the results, everything done and said right now, taken care of, grown, built, everything. Like we want all the results without the work. We want them yesterday. At least I do. If you're anything like me, you do too. And I've realized that sometimes when we get excited about these things, we burn the fuel of motivation very hot, but it burns out very quickly, right? So we come out of the gates full steam ahead and we do everything that we possibly can. And then we wind up burning ourselves out before we've completed the task at hand. And I did this with the canoe. I burned up and I burned out. We put so much work, so much effort. A couple of the people that I've been able to connect with since have said, man, I can't believe how fast you're going on this thing. And I have taken probably the last month to month and a half off because I was sick of it. Frankly, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. We're about 50 or 60% done. I'm like, I don't want to do anymore. That's because I burned myself out because I tried to come out of the gates too hot and do everything without realizing that this was going to be a slow, drawn out, methodical process. Now, we've started again over the past couple of weeks and we've made some good progress, but I'm learning the lesson not to burn myself out and instead do something on the canoe every single day. So guys, you don't need to lose 40 pounds this month. In the next year, sure. But if you could lose 2 or 3 or 5 this month, then do that because you always have next month and the next month and the next month and so on. What I don't want you to do is I don't want you to get all hopped up and hot and bothered about a new project or a new business or a new relationship. And you pour everything that you have into that endeavor, into that relationship. And then you just don't have any more fuel because you've burned too hot. And then you give up, you fall short, you throw in the towel. And then, of course, how are you going to feel when you quit? And that's essentially what you're doing. Sorry if you hear the semi trucks in the background. I had to open the window because it's getting hot here in Maine. So you're going to hear some trucks over the summer. But I don't want you to burn out. I want you to be slow. I want you to be methodical. I want you to do something every single day. Maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 15 minutes, maybe it's an hour, but don't burn yourself out. Be in the game forever. So now that we're back into it, we've been working on it every day, and it's not so overwhelming as it can be because I'm not seeing the entire picture. I'm just seeing the next step, and I'm just working on that one thing, hanging it up for the day, going to do my other things and responsibilities and obligations, and then I'll come back to it tomorrow. And I've got the time to do it. And I want to be consistent on it as well. So slow and steady and methodical. Remember that. Don't burn up. All right. Number 3, sometimes, guys, the things that we enjoy doing still suck. And what I've seen is so many men who want everything to be just right and just perfect and feel good about everything they're doing and everything to be seamless and no problems and never want to feel bad about what they're doing. And I've realized that during building this canoe, I'm going to step right now where I'm sanding the inside of the hull. And anybody who's built a boat knows exactly what I'm talking about right here. It's painstaking. It's miserable. It's exhausting. I've got sawdust in my nose and my mouth and my eyes, even though I've got protective gear and all that. And my arms are tired and my back's sore. It sucks. It sucks. It's not a fun part of the process. But we need to understand that even the best things, even the grandest plans and the greatest ideas and the most noble pursuits and exercises and things that we're going to do, adventures, are not always going to be easy. If they're always easy, they're probably not going to be worth anything anyways. And what I don't want to have happen is for you to run into some sort of snag or roadblock on your path to fitness and plateau and think, well, see, it's not meant to be. Or your business doesn't grow as fast as you would like. And so, you throw in the towel before you really had an opportunity to grow, or you get into an argument with your girlfriend or your wife and you think the relationship is over. No, guys, sometimes life just sucks. Let's deal with that deliberately, intentionally. Let's be honest with the people that are impacted by the decisions we're making in our lives, and also honest with ourselves. And the more that we're honest with ourselves about things sometimes just sucking, the more likely it is that we're going to just bear down and brace for impact and drive on through and get past the step, that sucks. And we're at that stage now. I just yesterday finished sanding the inside of the hull and cleaning it up and getting it just where I wanted. And now I'm on to a next step. I had to grind, quite literally and figuratively, and I had to work through, and mentally I had to just keep going. And now we're in a better place because we got through it. And I'm proud that I got through it as well. If you're quitting and throwing in the towel every time things get a little hard, what's that going to do to your confidence, let alone your ability to complete a project or a task? You want to be confident? Do it when it sucks, when you don't want to do it. Get up, go to the gym, work out, have that difficult conversation, ask for that promotion, do that email, or have that conversation you've been dreading. Get through the thing. It's going to suck, but it's going to be better on the other side of that. Number 4, and this relates to it sucking, is that you're going to mess up at times, and you got to afford yourself some grace. There's a big push in society, especially within the self-development and self-help space, like I feel like I'm in, that says it's not okay to mess up and you should feel bad about it. And, of course, you're going to feel bad for messing up. And I think you should. If you didn't feel bad, you'd be indifferent. And that seems strange if it's something meaningful to you. So feeling bad just comes with the territory, but understand that you're going to mess up from time to time and you're going to screw up and things aren't always going to go according to plan. And then you have to know that when you do mess up, that you can fix it and you can adapt and you can learn new strategies and new techniques and overcome. I put little nicks and gouges. When I pulled the canoe off the molds itself, I ripped 5 or 6 strips off of the stem. I was heartbroken. My heart sank when I did it. And I was distraught. And I went upstairs and I was so disappointed. And I gave myself a little bit and cooled off, just got a drink and talked to the family or played with the family. And I went back down there with a calm, level-headed approach and looked at the problem, and we fixed it. You can barely even notice it now. And the little bit that you can notice is just character on the road to building something I've never built before. So you're going to screw up. Embrace it. Accept it. It's reality. If you think you're going to be perfect, well, I got news for you. And if you think you're going to be perfect, you're going to throw in the towel, you're going to quit, you're going to feel like a loser when they don't go perfect, when your plans don't go exactly right, and they won't. So deal with it. And then learn to be resilient. Think on your feet, be creative, be resourceful, give yourself a little margin when you mess up so you can come back with a fresh perspective and a level head so you don't make it worse, which I've done. But just know things are going to get messed up. Things are going to get screwed up. It's okay. You can fix it. It's one little blip on the time span of your life. So treat it like a blip, fix it, move along quickly. It's all going to be okay. And the last thing, guys, and I think this ties into sometimes things are going to suck as well. Point number 5 is let the future fuel you. Let the future fuel you. On your path to fitness, on your path to a great relationship, on your path to improvement or starting that business or doing any number of things that you want to do and complete. As I said, it's going to get painful and it's going to get lonely and it's going to suck at times. And that's part of the deal. But when you want to get past that, you need to look into the future for what the future holds. As I was sitting sanding this yesterday, thinking about how miserable I was and how my arms and shoulders were tired and my back was sore, I just kept thinking to myself and envisioning that day where we took the canoe off the trailer or off the rack of the truck and we dropped it in the water. And my oldest son and I got in the canoe for the first time and we floated and canoed across the lake. And that picture, that vivid picture of the smiles and the joy and the happiness and the satisfaction and fulfillment of creating and building something that we could actually use kept me going when I didn't want to do it. And this is not a big deal, right? Like building a canoe, I could throw in the towel, I could quit anytime, but it kept me sanding when I didn't want to sand. Years ago, I did a Spartan-A-Gogi, which is a 60-hour endurance event. And there was multiple times where I wanted to quit and throw in the towel and ring the bell they had. And I just kept thinking about the phone call that I was going to have with my kids and tell them, hey, you know what? Dad did it. Dad did it. And as I was struggling on the mountain with 10 or so of my teammates and we were struggling and it was challenging and tough, I just kept thinking to myself, that phone call is going to be amazing. And guess what? That phone call was amazing. It was everything that I envisioned it. And it may not seem like a big deal to you, but you know what? It doesn't need to be a big deal to you. The things that fuel me, my future, needs to be a big deal to me. The things that fuel you need to be a big deal to you. So if I don't resonate with it, that's okay. If your family or your friends don't resonate with it, that's okay. Whatever you can create in your mind, a vision or an idea or a concept or a place of the future, whatever it can be to fuel you to keep going, that's what you need. And if you don't have that, you're going to stop. It's going to be painful. The path to becoming a more capable, more proficient, better man is painful and lonely and filled with ups and downs and highs and lows and struggles and failures and setbacks and achievements and victories and everything in between. And when you're struggling and you don't want to go any further, just think about your family. Think about what your kids mean to you. Think about what your wife means to you. Think about what it's going to be like when you grow that business and you're able to influence thousands. Think about what it's going to be like when you can buy a plane ticket for your family on a vacation that you've always wanted to do but never could afford. Think about how you're going to feel when you look in the mirror and you can actually start to see the abs in that mirror in your six pack. Or think about you getting into a dangerous or violent encounter and you emerging victorious because you've been training for years and years to make yourself a weapon capable of doing righteous violence if needed. Think about those things. Those are the things that propel us and move us forward and motivate and inspire us. And then we have to have the discipline to back it up. So this isn't about a canoe, guys. I mean, we're building a canoe. But to us, it's so much more meaningful than that because we want it to be, and we've made the decision for it to be. So I hope these lessons serve you as you're thinking about building your own quote unquote canoe, which I'm using as a metaphor for a project, a business, a relationship, or just building yourself into a better, more capable man. Number one, you don't need to know how to do everything to get started. You just need the first step. Number two, slow, steady, methodical. Don't burn that fuel too hot. Be in the game as long as you need to be in the game. Number 3, sometimes the things that we enjoy, the things that are meaningful, they suck. And that's part of life. Doesn't mean it's not a pursuit you should not be engaged in. It means that it's life and it sucks sometimes. Deal with it. Number 4, you're going to mess up. You're going to struggle. You're going to fail. You're going to fall short. Welcome to life. Recognize it. Acknowledge your mess ups quickly. Look at them objectively. Be resourceful. Be resilient. Be creative. And figure out a way to fix the mess ups as they happen. And number 5, let the future fuel you. The future can be brighter. It will be brighter if you work towards it. And if you let it be the right type of fuel for you to keep going when things are challenging and tough and difficult and demanding and scary and everything else that we experience as men. Let a better future, a brighter future fuel you for what you need to do right now to make sure that happens. All right, guys, I will keep you updated. I'll keep posting pictures and sharing what we're doing so you can see the journey and the progress that we've made. I really appreciate the support and feedback from you guys. You guys have given me tips and tricks and ideas and inspiration and congratulations and the fuel I need to keep going as well. And I'm honored to be able to share a small part of what we're doing with you guys. And of course, to be able to build this thing with my son. Can't wait to get it on the water, but I can't wait to see what your, again, quote unquote, canoe is and what you're doing to improve yourself, improve your life, and the projects that you're going to be working on. These are the things that are going to keep you engaged and motivated and help you become the man that you want to be. And also the type of man that your family and your friends and your loved ones need you to be. And also society needs you to be. We are devoid. I should say we are increasingly devoid of manliness and masculinity. And it's up to each and every one of us, the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of men who will hear this podcast at some point, to become, to do, to be more. All right, guys, we'll be back next week. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.